You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks. This week on the podcast, we are going to continue our series looking at First Peter, and we're going to go First Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 25. And so, Zach, do your thing.
Yeah. Um, as we continue on, we're just going to finish really the rest of chapter one. So, yeah, hear these words from First Peter. Therefore, once you have your minds ready for action and you are thinking clearly, place your hopes completely on the grace that will be brought to you from when Jesus to you when Jesus Christ is revealed. Don't be conformed to your former desires, those that shape you when you were ignorant. But as obedient children, you must be holy in every aspect of your lives, just as the one who called you is holy. It is written, "You will be holy because I am holy." Since you call upon a Father who judges all people according to their actions without favoritism, you should conduct yourself with reverence during the time of your dwelling in a strange land. Live in this way, knowing that you were not liberated by perishable things like silver or gold from the empty lifestyle you inherited from your ancestors. Instead, you were liberated by the precious blood of Christ, like that of a flawless, spotless lamb. Christ was chosen before the creation of the world, but was only revealed at the end of time. This was done for you, who through Christ are faithful to the God who raised him from the dead and gave him glory. So now your faith and hope should rest in God. As you set yourselves apart by your obedience to truth, so that you might have genuine affection for your fellow believers, love each other deeply and earnestly. Do this because you have been given new birth, not from the type of the seed that decays, but from the seed that doesn't. This seed is God's living, life-giving, and enduring word. Thus, all human life on earth is like grass, and all human glory is like a flower in a field. The grass dried up, and its flower falls off, but the Lord's word endures forever. This is the word that was proclaimed to you as good news. So, Matt, as you hear the back end of Peter's first chapter here, what catches your attention?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot there that we could mess
Mhm.
with. Like, what does it mean to be an obedient child? What does it mean to be liberated? What does it mean to live holy?
Mhm.
I, and I
The use of the word liberated was really
that
interesting to me.
that's what kind of um that's I actually was gonna kind of throw it back at you. So Zach, when you
Mhm.
think of liberation, what comes to mind? um, but you know, I love the last sentence there in verse 21. So now your faith and hope should rest in God. Um, I wonder how often we forget
Mm,
that our faith and hope should rest in God and not other people or places or
mhm,
things, but really rest in God. And I see that as like really examining yourself. And we talk about this kind of at nauseum at times about like how does your faith and your life align. But I think that's important. I mean, it's important to Wesley. It's important to like it's definitely
mhm,
important to me. Asking yourself, does my orthodoxy, the right belief, match my orthopraxy, the right practice?
mhm,
And I think when we can start to wrestle with that, we can find there's some animosity and strife when we say, well, no, it doesn't, or what could be better. But like really asking ourselves, like, do I really trust in God in this much in my
mhm.
life and everything? When right now, like, I mean, we are definitely living in some very tension filled times. And I wonder how much in the midst of this tension are we putting our trust and faith in God?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. That can be asked in a lot of times, right? I think we deal with that a whole lot when life is going well, right? And we're like just be bopping along and not paying attention to much because things are good. And then we take a swift left turn to Albuquerque, and we're like, oh, well, where's God now, right? Like we kind of lose sight of God is in the midst of all of it. And yeah, I think that's a really good question, not only to ask now when things feel a little chaotic, but also remembering to ask that of ourselves when things don't feel chaotic, when things are going presumably as planned and as well as they could for us. Um, I think it's reading through that clearly, this portion of First Peter uh, is pretty significant for John Wesley. Like you think about as Wesleyan of a piece of text out of the Gospels there is that's not Jesus talking. Uh, this is this is it. There's some core stuff in here on what we believe as Wesleyans and United Methodists, beginning with kind of that first little piece of holy living. You know, John Wesley was big on inward and outward holiness and moving towards that. And like you said, kind of making sure they match, right? Like is what I believe matching my actions? Am I living my faith out in a way um that's making a difference, both in my life but in the world around me? And so kind of that idea of social holiness, inward and outward holiness being emphasized here in First Peter. Um, and kind of that don't be conformed by the desires of the past, but live as obedient children. You must be holy in every aspect of your lives, just as you were just as the one who called you is holy. It is written, you will be holy because I am holy. And I don't know, we talk about it in a lot of different ways in holiness than in the way we live out our faith and moving to perfection and love, right? Like there's a number of things that we talk about there. But then I think the rest of this chapter um, builds a foundation around that and what living an inward and outward holiness does and how it um, liberates us from the holds of what the world has, right? Like Peter goes on to remind us that we aren't set free by silver and gold. We're not set free by the things of this world. We're not set uh, free from because of riches, because of power and wealth, because of privilege. We're set free because of a God who loves us deeply, and that means something. Liberation comes from that kind of love, from that kind of holiness, and that kind of faith lived out in very tangible um, ways. In just continuing to point back that liberation doesn't come from power and money and privilege. Those things hold us back and oppress people. Those aren't liberative actions. And and so yeah, I don't know. There's a lot there. And then a really bleak reminder through scripture of, hey, human life is like grass. You're going to be like a flower if this is the way you live, right? If you're not living into these holy, liberated love, the holy and liberating love of and grace of God, we will dry up. Our flowers will fall off, and hope won't quite be there, right? It'll just be out of reach because we're reaching to something that's not quite hopeful.
Well, I think that begs the question, like, what do you need to be liberated from? Like, what's
Mm,
holding you back
hmm
from being in a good relationship with God? And, what's keeping you from taking those steps of whatever it may look like? Everybody, there's always something that can keep us back from living and being who God created us to be. And I think sometimes we get in our own way so much that sometimes we need to be liberated from ourselves, and let go of whatever it is that's holding us back from living
hmm
into the call of whatever God is pulling us towards or showing us where to go, or however you want to look at it. There is that sense that sometimes we forget the that our biggest hindrance is ourselves. and that sometimes that liberation from ourselves is vital, and literally, and I think that that's where doing the work of self reflection and asking ourselves like what's keeping me from truly growing closer to God. And when you start to look at it and you start to unpack it, you start to see where you are probably the biggest hindrance more than anything else.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that's why the language of liberation in this reading um hits so hard because it's not often when we think about liberation, we're thinking about big, grand scale liberation, right? Like liberating people from oppressive regimes and powers and leaders, um, rather than bringing it down to the personal level of what's holding us back, what's oppressing us in a way that we need to be liberated to move our faith forward, or to live out our faith in a way that's we're not able to right now. I think that's a great question.
Well, and it's very clear. I mean, verse 18 is very clear that it's not perishable things. it's
Right.
it's really faith in God, like those perishable things that we have that are from God, like those, just so many things
Hmm.
that like we're really big about finding the quick fix.
Hmm.
And you look at the big things that are
Hmm.
going right now in the medical field of the big fix of the pill or the shot or whatever it is that,
Hmm.
that is a quick fix, when in reality like healthy living and holy living are really what can keep us in those spaces. And um, I just think that, like, I think that that's what struck me, is that there are things that are in our way that really are things, and we just need to let go of those things and then go from there.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we are the things sometimes, right? We got to get out of our own way. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's I agree. I think that's a really interesting conversation. Followed up with the back end of that on 22, as you set yourselves apart by your obedience to the truth, so that you might have genuine affection for your fellow believers, love each other deeply and earnestly. It it all stems from that, right? The hope that we find in this faith that moves us towards holiness, that moves us towards love. Um, in I don't know, you and I have off microphone, off camera, have talked a lot about um, kind of the personal individual faith, um, in relationship with God that tends to overshadow the communal faith. The I don't need the church, I don't need the community, I can do this on my own. But that's not inherently bad. It starts with us and then it moves us into community. And but our faith moves us into community. That hope and love and grace of God moves us into community. It should never be kept individual. And I think that's sometimes where we get in our way, right? Like being liberated from ourselves to move into community, to see where we're loving. Obedience is that living out that love and grace of God in the ways that we've experienced in community with others. Um, Otherwise, I think we're just holding it in, and it needs some liberation, right? I'm gonna keep going back to that word. It's a fascinating word today in the
it
reading.
it
I didn't
definitely
expect it.
it definitely is your word for the day. I would
Uh,
definitely encourage you to go read Gustav Gutierrez and
no,
his Theology
probably
of
not.
Liberation, even though I know
Uh,
you won't, because there's no pictures in that book.
all right.
um, I just
Liberation's about as big of a word as I'm gonna get today.
I just packed that book actually in my boxes just before you got on.
I do
Um,
own that book though. It's over there in my liberation theology collection.
I think one of the ways that we can help be liberated is being attentive to where God is at work in our lives. And so,
Yeah.
Zach, since the last time that we talked on the podcast, where have you seen God work in your life?
I had a really good one the other day. Oh, oh, I remember. It was one of those that it happened in real time. I was like, "Ooh, that's the story I'm going to tell on the podcast because it's good." Um, we last week, uh, n my son and I go see a bunch of movies. Something we enjoy. It's his hobby is movies, and He's 16. So you just never know what you're getting with him as far as what he's gonna like, what he's not gonna like. Um, but he has a pretty broad movie genre. He loves them all. And he's been so excited about the Sheep Detectives for months since he first saw the preview. He's just been pumped about it. And I thought that's weird. And like it's just a little sheep mystery movie. You know, it's PG, it's just a family movie. Uh so we went and saw it opening night, of course, because that's just what we're gonna do. It was fantastic. Um, but he turned around and went the next day with his sisters. Didn't take either one of us as parents. They just hopped in his car. He and his sisters drove to the movies and had a great time. Uh, they laughed and cried, literally cried, because it's just a wholesome movie, and enjoyed time with one another, which I having a couple of older siblings myself, that didn't happen very often where we just enjoyed our time. It still doesn't happen very often where we enjoy our time together. But they just spent the evening, went to the theater, bought each other snacks, sat beside each other, and had a really good time. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that I just kind of saw in the movement of the spirit hanging out with my kids, and they just they just did it on their own. And it's fun to see them have um, you know, kind of adult relationships with each other, or relationships outside of us as parents, and do something other than, and they don't argue too much to begin with, but they don't have to have that, right? They don't have to spend time with each other that's not managed by us, and they want to, and that feels pretty good as a parent. Um, but uh, definitely just saw the movement of the spirit through that, and just how they enjoyed their time with one another, and I long for that for everybody, just to have that space with whomever it is, your family, your chosen family, everybody in between, just to be and to be yourself, and to be able to go and watch a fun little movie and laugh and cry with your siblings and just be. It's pretty cool. What about you, Matt?
I was really hoping we'd make it without talking about the sheep movie.
No, it's going to be a central thing. We may go see it again this weekend. It's great.
Uh, just
It's in
because
96% Rotten Tomatoes.
I know that's actually where Ashley went for Mother's Day,
Nice.
with Laura and her. I arranged for them to be able to go do that. For me, in the season of transition I'm in, with moving from one church to another, it's been really cool to see how the Spirit's at work. One in both places, but really here as they're gearing up. They are not as familiar with pastoral transitions as some congregations are, and so we've laughed, we've cried, we've wondered, we're as in all the emotions. But it's still really great how people are willing to step up and still like show up, and like that stuff is so important. And especially in a season like this where there is some uncertainty, there's a lot of questions, but yet when people still show up, like one, it makes me feel good,
Yeah.
and then the other is just like it's just so much fun. Like, and there's always that struggle of like, let's not talk about me leaving, let's focus on what the task is at hand. I don't want to hear that, and some of that's just my personality, and I don't like to be the central focus of things, which I know is weird as a pastor. But I just always love just the conversations I've had the last few days of just some hopes and dreams and plans, and excitement that is coming. And so that's just been a fun. The Spirit definitely has been a movement in this space as both churches are in that transitional space. And so like it's been fun. It's exhausting. Like I'm next week is going to be so exhausting with Laura's graduation and all the things. Like the one thing I'm asking myself, and I've been doing a lot better, is taking time for myself, because I need that and I know that. And so it's been um, really good. And if after graduation's over, everything kind of does slow down in a way. And so I'm looking forward to that space, but just I've been enjoying being in the midst of the Spirit, because it's definitely been amazing to see. So
Very nice.
Listeners, we're thankful for you and listening. And so we want to encourage you to continue to go to our website at beardedtheologians.com, where we've got all of our past content and other items up for to purchase in our store. You're more than welcome to do that. And so we're definitely grateful for you. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechthold. Thanks for checking us out.
Guys, and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.